Okay, welcome back to our coaching call. We're on the 20th of May, and we are fresh off the back of our first Badwater crew meeting last night, where the whole crew got together, and that was a chance for everyone to meet everyone, but certainly for Fletch to meet the rest of the guys, and catch up. So yeah, how are we doing?
Yeah, it was good. It was really good fun for more reasons than I expected. But it was yeah, it was a great time. It was really nice to meet everyone. Some great personalities. It's going to be a fun trip. Uh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Um, so I think yeah, this week is we can kind of dive into a bit of a different week this week. I've got a race this weekend, which is a backyard ultra. So for those unfamiliar with this format, it's a loop which you have to complete on the hour every hour. The original, so the distances appear entirely random. It's like 4.1 miles per loop. But actually, the logic is if you were to do 24 yards, so 24 backyards in 24 hours, you would complete 100 miles. So it's 100 miles split into 24 loops, which is why you end up with this random distance. Anyway, normally the race is run, you just keep going, and it's last man standing or last woman standing, and the last person to complete a lap is the winner. Um, but luckily, in this case, I don't have to do that. Because it's a training run, and we're using it as a training exercise, and so we're capping it for reasons of, to be honest, childcare and the fact that I have to go and drop my eldest daughter at a rowing race the following morning. We're going to cap it at 10 hours, and that's the plan, right? So I will be joined by my son Basil for as many laps as he can do. He's only 13, so he can. We'll see what he does. Hopefully he stops before I do. And then we're on to. So I'm going to do 10 hours. So it's going to be a kind of 67k run, and yeah, that's the plan. So yeah, so with a few specific focuses, I guess, but a bit of a different weekend to normal.
Yeah, exactly. It's a really nice opportunity to trial the fueling side of things. Morton being on board now and getting used to the volume of food that you're going to be having, but also nice to have that stop-start routine. So the sessions are replenishing, finishing up, restocking, going again, which is basically what it's going to be like on Badwater. We're having that more cyclical approach to the aid station moving along with the car. So yeah, it's quite a nice simulation without it being a simulation. And I haven't told you this yet, but we're going to try and sort of wrap you up a little bit where we've got some
Ah,
also some hot heat inducing stuff going on.
oh, that's nice to hear. So whilst everyone else is enjoying the supposed bank holiday and stripping down to summer running kit, I'll be looking like some sort of uh, snow monster with layers on.
Exactly. Like Clarice from Hannibal Lecter running through the woods.
Good. Well, I'm glad you dropped that one in there. So yeah, I mean, I think I'm particularly, the Morton, gels and fuel we've been using for a couple of weeks now, or over time, but certainly kind of in anger in the last few weeks and stuff. But they've been over relatively short duration, right? So short, right? 30k runs, marathons, things like that. And now this is quite a good test to really, this is 10 hours of, okay, you can get yourself with sort of gastrointestinal distress quite quickly, but in a marathon, it's less likely to happen than it is over 10 hours. So it's an opportunity to kind of push the high carbs, push that limit and see how that goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's with it being on the hour every hour. So, the Coats and Sui, the key thing with the on the
Yeah,
hour, every hour, is we can really fine tune the fueling strategy. So we can be literally, we know how much fuel we're taking in every hour, and you can just replenish those stocks and don't have to necessarily carry them on you. So we can have like, okay, we know that 90 grams per hour is going in. How are you feeling with that? And then we can fluctuate and expand and contract it if needed from there. So yeah, it's a really nice opportunity actually to kind of like practice this format without it being cool. Let's just go out and randomly put a bench up every 5 minutes or every 5K on a run somewhere.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I think yeah, and the other bit that we'll I think we'll touch on today, but probably dive into in a bit more detail is the kind of hydration strategy. So, one of the in temperate climates, like here, but even on a hot day in the UK, it probably never gets that hot. You can, consuming enough electrolytes is not that hard, and it's definitely manageable. But the challenge in Death Valley is that the volume of intake of fluids will have to be so much higher that I've got to work out how much of that to take in is like electrolytes versus carbohydrates and stuff, and making sure we're kind of balancing. Because if you just scale up what you do here, you'll be either taking in, I guess, too many carbs, which you won't be able to stomach, or not taking enough fluid in because of just the dry heat and the just extremes of temperature. So this whole hydration game is going to get quite serious, I think.
Yeah, it is, and obviously for good reason, right? Because being like hypo on a fluid scale is also almost as bad as being hypo on a glucose scale, and that's ultimately where I think a lot of these races can be. So it's a very relatively low hanging fruit to keep hydrated or euhydrated. Um, but we can't completely offset what you're losing. So it's kind of what are we willing to lose and how much are we willing to lose over the course of the first half, second half, etc. And so, yeah, we're going to be doing a little bit of a deep dive into that over the next couple of weeks as to, okay, what does the science say? What's the sort of case study experience say? What have people tried? And just kind of refine it, obviously, to your body type, aka a 53-year-old, well, 53, a 53 kg person is going to have a different need and body surface area compared to yourself. And so that's something to
Yeah,
consider as well. We have also got to do a bit of testing around this. So you are going to be sort of going out for, again, this week is going to be a great way of testing some of these things because obviously we're going to hit a massive high of 29 at some point, which is like halfway there pretty much to what we're going to be doing.
yeah,
Um, but going out for a run for an hour, not taking on any fluid, and then getting in and weighing yourself and seeing how much you lose over that time period is basically a really crude field test of seeing what your sweat rate is. And if your sweat rate's within a liter, great. We can scale that a little bit up and be cool. Okay, you're probably going to lose 1.5 in hotter environments. And off the back of that, we can then roughly calculate what the sodium loss is going to be, and we just replenish accordingly. So it's going to be a little bit of crude field testing, but mostly kind of delving into what's the field kind of come to as an agreement on this, because it's been like debated left, right, and centre because everyone's so individual on their ability to retain salts. Like sweat salt is different to blood salt, aka you retain a lot of sodium through what you lose. So actually replenishing fluids is like most of the battle, and then it's just fine tuning the sodium and the chloride stuff and the electrolyte bits on top. It's and you can definitely overdo it, and that's the problem too. Like you can definitely
yeah,
oversaturate on sodium, and you actually become overhydrated. Because this is something I've only recently sort of learned in this particular manner was that taking on salts is not to uh, replenish your sodium concentrations. It's actually to retain the water that you're taking in. So it's not to replenish the loss of sodium. It's to retain the water in which you're bringing in, because so much of that water is going to be urinated out because your kidneys can't absorb all of it or synthesize all of it into blood plasma. So it's yeah, it's quite fascinating actually getting into this side of things. So my education's always been around gases and blood sampling, and this is now kind of getting more close towards nutrition stuff, which is really good.
Yeah. And I certainly remember back to kind of marathon de sable and the kind of training for that. Not so much training for that, but the actual race experience. Because the water's limited, or not limited, rationed. You have a certain amount of water that you can use. And at aid stations, it was quite interesting. The kind of timing gate aid stations, they were not so worried if you didn't have water. I mean, it was your problem, right? If you used up your water, but they're very concerned that you had your salt tablets and that you could basically keep taking the salt. And so that they were, even a higher concentration of salt would help with what you're talking about, which is that, if you go, this is where we're going to break out into stuff that I'm a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing, but on every cell wall barrier, it's that, osmosis is the transfer that takes place. And if your salts go out, the breakdown is at every single cell barrier. It's not like sugar where you could just chuck some in and it relatively quickly gets into your blood. The hydration process is far more systematic, sort of through the whole chain. So that's why getting it wrong is getting fuel wrong is unlikely to finish your race. It might slow you down and lead you to have to time out for an hour or recover. But getting hydration wrong or electrolytes wrong, that's what finishes race, or not finishes, pulls you out of races, right? Because it's such a complex system to get right. And we've seen it. I've got that sensor that I've got, the flow bio sensor, that the sweat, there's a big difference in concentration between like a hard run and an easy run. Not just the volume of sweat, but the actual concentration shift. Um, and that might not seem like a load of difference, but over 20 plus hours, it starts to really clock up. Like you're out by 20% or something. I guess you compound that up, and then suddenly, like that's why you are, struggling or not, as the case may be.
Yeah, no, for sure. And what we probably know now is that that concentration difference is actually quite closely correlated to sweat rate. So the speed in which you are taking fluids out of the bloodstream and onto the surface of the skin to help with cooling, there's sometimes not time for the skin to retain some of that salt. And so the harder the faster that fluid is moving, the less it can kind of catch onto the salts and keep hold of them. So you're going to lose more by working harder. Uh, Obviously, that also is environmentally influenced as well because you're going to sweat more when it's hotter. So actually, you do lose more salt or sodium chlorides when it is more temperate, also higher temperatures. But the fun thing is, by being acclimated or acclimatizing yourself, if you're able to get into the sun and so on, is you're going to get better at that.
Yeah.
So your body becomes more efficient at retaining its salts and holding on to those things because it is such a life force and it's such a way of nerves communicating, and calciums and those things are massively important to retain, but also sodiums and potassiums and all the other ones, like they help with brain function too. But I would say on the caveat to that is our body is incredibly good at retaining them and incredibly good at compartmentalizing fluids. So there's what we call them the fluid compartments, and we are good old 70% water pretty much. My wife says we're basically cucumbers with anxiety. The next level of that is that there's subsections of that fluid where it kind of stays, and the interstitial fluids and the intracellular fluids are kind of separate. And that's a fascinating part of this hydration thing. Is it total body volume that we are looking to influence, or is it kind of where's the biggest loss? And we definitely see it is in the intravascular fluid, where it's the blood plasma. That blood plasma basically gets sort of almost eradicated over in extreme examples of extreme dehydration and heat shock. That's where things like your stroke volume decreases. That's things where like cardiac infractions kind of kick in, is because there's just not enough blood to get in and exit again at the speed in which the heart's having to turn over and keep cardiac output. So yeah, obviously we're not looking to get anywhere near that. It's that's kind of why we're going to monitor things and like looking at cardiac drift. Like, how's your heart rate doing? Okay, pace is the same. Heart rate's much higher. Okay, let's like cool you down, take on some extra fluids. There's going to be some field testing that we do. We're going to sort of looking into that in a minute as well. Is it worth doing urine testing? I think probably yes at some points, especially like first thing. If you ever go back a big break, it's worth looking into the osmolarity of it and what's in it a little bit. But because you're going to be guzzling so much water, it's going to look like you're pretty hydrated, and that's going to be part of the problem. I think when people look at their urine, it's like, oh, that looks pretty clear, but they're just down 2 liters of water an hour beforehand. That's pretty much just going to go straight through, and that's where the salt kind of helps, is just retaining some of that.
It's definitely complicated. And something to get right. It's probably I mean, it will add or remove hours from the race. Yeah, that first half, which is the hottest half, will affect the second half massively. And so any like less mistakes in that first 2/3 of the race will make hours of difference in the last third.
Yeah, there was, as we were talking about last night, we were sort of talking about how much of the crew was going to get involved in different parts of the race and so on. And that's also something for us to consider as a crew. Be like, okay, we're going to be exercising and then sitting in the heat and getting from one place to another one. We're still going to be sweating. We're still going to be getting rid of fluids. And how do we offset that too without eating too much into the rations that we've got between one station and another one? We've got me, you, and Nick basically being over 2 meters. We've got a lot of fluids that we can move around. We don't want to be like
Yeah.
guzzling water too quickly. So, how do we become efficient at using water too? And that's going to be down to our own training, getting ready for the race. Like, so, all well and good that you're getting ready, but we need to get ready too, and or make sure that we're doing our heat prep and knowing how much we sweat.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and that's right. It it became clear yesterday, like as we are talking through the sort of not the specific logistics, but just someone's going to be pacing a bit on and off. That's another person that's going to be consuming twice as much fluid as they would be if they were just a passenger in the car, and then they're going to have sweaty kit, and they're going to have to space and hydrate. There's a lot going on in one small vehicle with, well, okay, one of us, me, not in the vehicle, but 4 other people in and out of the vehicle, and that vehicle is just going up the road a few kilometers and waiting, and again and again and again. It's definitely there's a little bit more to it than perhaps meets the eye.
Yeah, I know, for sure, for sure. Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of the time is there's such focus is on the athlete and how much they're using and what they're doing and so on. But if the crew is all dehydrated and hallucinating because they
Yeah.
haven't taken on their water they need, and then what good are we to use?
Well, and it's people talk about going to Death Valley and driving and getting out of their car and after 200 meters turning around and going back, thinking, "Oh my God, I'm not doing that." But we've got to get 5 people through without incident, and if someone in the crew gets in difficulty because we've not, collectively, like, care's not been taken, then you've got someone up the road who's running along, and you've got someone in the crew that needs help. Suddenly things start to escalate. So it's quite an important. There's a lot more to it, I suppose, than perhaps it feels like. But that's all. They're all exciting or interesting kind of things to get on top of and work out. And how do we do it? And how do we plan it? And we've got this training weekend coming up in sort of a month from now. Where we'll replicate as much of it as we can. But yeah, it's all part of a much wider preparation than just some loony running 135 miles through Death Valley.
Yeah, exactly. I think it is a much more of a team effort than I think a lot of other ultra races is. a lot of the other ultras are more just logistical support and being there and providing just being at the right place at the right time, and the crew is kind of like sipping margaritas in between and kind of having a little bit of a
Yeah.
jolly. Not suggesting that is exactly what crewing is all about, but
Yeah, yeah,
there's a lot less pressure, I think, on you looking after yourself in that environment. Whereas I think in this situation, there's just such a reliance on the crew being there at the right time and also looking after their own health so that you then don't become uh, subject to some kind of ill health too because we've mishapped and or we've got now suddenly got three guys in the back having some kind of A&E support.
yeah. Oh well, we'll avoid all that. We'll be planning and organizing, and we'll definitely avoid all that. Uh, so yeah. So I'm just trying to think. So this week is yeah, I guess getting ready or doing some work towards this thing. Last week was a good week. It was quite a big week actually in the end. You gave me 2 double days, and then I suppose we've not updated on the 30K that
Yeah.
you've attempted to you attempted to ruin my favorite workout with the addition of speed intervals on the end of it. Um, it wasn't too bad. I, I'll
Yeah.
no,
So
it's
it's a great session. I mean, like what a lot of my coaches, one of my coaches in particular, was like, you got to give a little bit of a lot of what they want, a little bit of what they need. And so that 30K run being like, it's fun. It's exactly what you enjoy doing. It's a great session anyway from what we've designed. But what do we need is we need a bit more durability. And rather than just running for longer and getting just more miles in, what we might be able to shortcut is just putting more force through the floor and inducing a bit more fatigue without actually going on and running an extra 10K. We can only run an extra 3 minutes. And so now those 30-second intervals at the end, strides, simplistically, is exactly to do that, build durability. I think we mentioned it before. We've taken it from team sport ethos in that team sports research was found to, if you do sprints at the beginning, it seemed to increase top speed. Like at the beginning of a session, boom, they're fresh, so you're muscularly ready to go, bang, you're out there. That seemed to increase top speed, but by putting the sprints at the end of a session, seemed to decrease fatigability, and that's the decline in performance over a number of reps. So they became more resilient to fatigue rather than increasing top speed. We don't need to increase top speed. We do need to improve fatigability. And so that's kind of where that slight twist of the turning of the screw came in a little bit.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's a really fun thing from my side to do because it feels like you're giving it everything, but you look at the splits back again, you're like, oh, I was fatigued.
yeah, yeah. No, and n of one. The first week I did it, the decline was quite significant. So like the first 30 seconds, the next. I definitely felt each one was like, oh my God, here we go. Um, and amusingly, which doesn't make any sense, like the last one is almost as slow as I've been doing 5K at. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of, it seems crazy that sort of how much you slow down by. Anyway, this last week I did it again, and yeah, the decay was not so great. So we'll take that as a win, whether it was just a one-off or not. But we'll take it. We'll take it.
We'll take it. We'll take it.
So I think, yeah. So I guess yeah, and then I think the plan is maybe to start looking at. We'll also start to look at some heat stuff over the next block of training, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So I think with the heat side of things, just because again, going through as I was thinking about how we can structure this, because obviously it's a couple of months, we haven't got too much time to like play. Now it's kind of time to like get ready. And so now is a great opportunity to get some of the early stage acclimation in place. It's a great opportunity to practice, and we've got enough time to sort of pull back on volume slightly and work more on that uh, acclimation side of things. So we're going to do probably about 5 to 7 days of after this ultra starting next week. 5 days, 7 days of back-to-back easy but hot sessions, utilizing your man shed to kind of get in there, work at a relatively comfortable, easy pace, and it may even be a good time to bring the bike in as well to like work on this if we want to. But we're looking at quite hot, so in between like 30 to 40 degrees, somewhere around there, if we can get it to up that high. And about 45 minutes worth of work, a 10-minute break, and 45 minutes worth of work again, and back-to-back days. So every day for 5 days, we're going to try and do this relatively easy volume. That basically kind of brings it up to a point, and then through the rest of the training block, we're kind of utilizing the benefits of that, like increased blood volume, decreased resting heart rate, all the usual bits that you've probably already maximized to a degree. And off the back of that, we then have a relatively short block right at the end of the training to hit heat again. And it'll be much shorter, much sharper, 5 to 10 days again, where it's pretty strong intervals potentially. Again, we're sort of crafting that now as to what that's going to look like. But high intensity interval training in the heat seems to provide a strong stimulus for this adaptation that we're looking after as well. So that will be something that we want to build in right at the very end, because we will lose these benefits super quick. And so there's an acclimation process, and then there's a decaying process. And we want to try and do a couple of maintenance sessions, but then we're kind of ready to race straight away from there.